Hello and a warm welcome to The Hype, a new series of programs with the tagline where minds collide, ideas amplify. I'm your host, Gift Mona, and in today's episode, we will delve into the culinary cultures of China and France. Get ready for a mouth-watering adventure as we explore the incredible flavors, traditions, and cooking techniques that make the cuisine so special. This is also in alignment with a 60th anniversary of the China-France diplomatic relations. And to gear up for the upcoming Chinese Spring Festival, that's why we decided to have today's show. But of course, I am not on my own. Joining me right now, we do have in studio Mr. Nicholas Iruzan. Is that how I say it?
You are Iruzun.
Welcome, Mr.
Thank
Nicholas,
you,
from the a news anchor from the CGTN French department, and we also have a food vlogger, Mr. Yang Guang. Hello,
Hi.
Mr. Yang. How
Nice
are
to
you?
meet you.
Good to meet you. Thank you for joining us in studio today. We also have a French chef, Quentin Delacroix. I hope I said that right. That's testing my French. Who's joining us online. Hello, Quentin. How are you?
Hello everyone. I'm Quentin. Very happy to be here today.
Very good. I'm very happy that you could join us in today's program. So it is really, really awesome to have you here, and I'm looking forward to our discussions that we'll be having over here in today's program. For those of you who are watching us, we are streaming live on CGTN's website and app, as well as the official accounts on Facebook, X, YouTube, Sina, Weibo, Bilibili, TikTok, Douyin, Yanxingping, and WeChat, and many other platforms as well. Don't forget to leave your comments with the hashtag ChinaFrench60, ChinaFrance60 rather, and Spring Festival 20. Simply hashtag also the hype on our platforms. Now, let us begin with Quentin. I know you have more than 6 million followers on social media platforms, and you are quite popular. Where are you based and how many years have you been living in China, Mr. Quentin?
So I am based in beautiful Shanghai. I've been there for 14 years now in Shanghai, and in China overall for 18 years. Had the chance to spend 4 years in Beijing before. So it's been 18 of my 18th Chinese New Year in China.
I'm pretty sure you have quite a lot to say in terms of your experiences in China and also being French, and I'm looking forward to your contribution in today's program.
Looking forward to share.
Now, I know our lovely editors have prepared an intro video of you, Mr. Quentin. Let's first have a look at that.
All right.
大家好，我是光滩。大家好，我是光滩。
大家好，我是光滩。
That was absolutely lovely. I know many Chinese fans affectionately call you Ge. Am I saying it right? Which means bro of the second tone, in reference to your skills at pronouncing every Chinese character in Pinyin second tone. I myself can't pronounce some of those words, but I do try. I absolutely do try. Do you like the name, Mr. Quentin? And why do you relate to it so much?
Yeah, I think I do like the name. It's fun. I think that's also one of the particularity of French people. We tend to have a strong accent in each language as we speak. So keep it this way in Chinese. And yeah, it's fun. I think it's quite affectionate. So
awesome. Okay, now let's turn to Yang Guang. You call yourself a chef architect.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That's very interesting. Before you tell us where it comes from, let's have a look at the video that our editors have put together.
Sure, thank you.
我翻阅了很多论文，咨询了好几位专家，用掉了80个鸡蛋和20斤番茄，做了上百次的实验。 我来教你如何做出兼具番茄清香和浓郁蛋香、质感滑嫩、挂满汤汁的番茄炒鸡蛋。在原理层面开展了研究，用实验进行了验证，总结出了适用于不同青菜的实操方法，让我们在家里做出粤菜大厨水准的炒青菜。我高强度的煎了几十个鸡蛋，积累了很多知识点，总结出了各种鸡蛋的完美煎法，现在就全部分享给你。大家好，我是阳光，今天咱们来煎鸡蛋。
Wow, that looks so scientific. I think I understand where you got the name from, right?
Yes, combining the word chef and architect, and which is my profession by training.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm looking forward to getting more of your perspective in terms of the science part of architecture as well as food and how you combine those two elements together. We also have Mr. Nico in studio. We might not have a video for you today, but you're very familiar with the CGTN platform as well as our audiences. Please introduce yourself and say hello.
Because just I don't have their skills, you know. The other guys are very good with food. I like eating, that's true. I like to eat.
You and I both.
Yeah. Oh, well. So I'm gonna share the way I taste food in China and in France. Yes. So yes, I'm from Paris area, so I've been in China for 14 years.
Oh wow,
it's a lot also. Yeah,
so you've also had quite a bit of an experience of the Chinese culture and the food and the cuisine. Yeah. Okay, I'd like to know, and I'm pretty sure our audience would also like to know what it is that you specialize in, right? I will start with you, Kong Tan, who's joining us online. Please explain to us and explain to the audience what it is that you specialize in.
So I am by training a French chef. I've been studying back in France, studying French cuisine, like proper French cuisine, worked in some fine dining restaurant back in France for a while, then came back to China, worked in a French restaurant for 5 years. And then after that, I left and opened a company. We're doing consulting, so product R&D, creating new products for different brands. And within that work, we've been asked a lot by our clients to mix Chinese food, French food, to do some creative food. The idea is just to give to consumers a new experience, something new and exciting. So right now, I'm also a big lover of Chinese cuisine. I cook a lot of Chinese cuisine, mostly Chinese cuisine at home. So I tend to naturally mix all of them because I think there's a lot of both cuisine. There's a lot that we can learn from each other. And there's a lot of very creative things to do, a lot of very exciting new flavors, like combining some Chinese flavor, Chinese spices, Chinese sauce in French cuisine, or some French techniques in Chinese cuisine. There's a lot of, you can just do some stuff that are completely new and exciting. So I think that's what I love to do the most. And that's what I tend to do in my daily work. And of course, social media is another part of my daily job, which is trying to share the food that I love on different platforms in China, and also starting on a Western platform to share my love of Chinese food. So
I think that would be nice to also have a look at that creative process that you talk about, right? When you do the fusion of foods from, the French cuisine and the Chinese cuisine as well, I'd like to find out more how you go about that and what is the creative process that you have as well. Mr. Yang, could you tell us what it is that you specialize in?
Well, I specialize in architecture, but today my focus is mainly on creating food video contents on Chinese social media. And I think what I love to do is to do deep dive in certain food or certain dishes and try to dissect it in a way that's not previously done in culinary tradition. So I try to look at it from a different perspective, maybe scientific, maybe historical, or maybe in an experimental way. So we look at, say, maybe a simple fried egg and try to see what's the best method to achieve what you want. And sometimes, we have a lot of say, beliefs in cooking, but they may not be true. So I try to look at things in a maybe in a new light, which try to shed a new light on the some of the old and traditional dishes in both Chinese and Western cooking in general. Because I spent a lot of time in the U.S. and even a little time in Europe, so I eat a lot of different cuisine. I don't really have a Chinese stomach where I have to eat say Chinese food everywhere I go. I do enjoy local cuisine wherever I travel, and I try to replicate them at home. So I love Thai food, and I love Japanese food, also Italian, and of course French food, and Chinese food, of course. So I do a lot of different programs of dishes from different culture, and I don't believe like a foreigner cannot do a Chinese dish well, and I also want to try to kind of give my own thoughts on, like, say, Western food, like, say, beef Wellington, one of my popular videos on the video platform.
Right.
Yes.
And what stood out for me is methods and techniques that you use, especially when you're cooking, and the videos that you make. And I've seen some of your videos as well. Quite intricate, you know, in terms of like the scientific use. It's very technical, but it's also very entertaining to watch. And I'd like us to go deeper into that as we have our discussion today. But I'd like for Mr. Nico to always tell us what it is that you specialize in. I do know that you're part of the CGTN family.
Yeah, actually, I'm a news anchor for CGTN. So I've been working for CGTN for more than 10 years, and we do some like the news program. It's about like actually it's international news, and also the relationship between China and the Western world and the French-speaking countries. Of course, we have also a lot of problems with Africa, the African countries, because in Africa a lot of countries speak French also. So we broadcast for these French-speaking countries, and I did a lot of reports. So I've been all around China, I would say. It's been so a lot of different provinces from north to south, east and west. So I think I have the chance to have been to many places in China, and I can share maybe something I know.
Yeah, and I think that we both can agree that we're the foodies of the program today, right?
Yeah.
So we're just going to collect as much information as we can from Mr.
In Beijing,
Yang, Mr. Kongton.
Actually, in Beijing, you can have a lot of different foods from all over the country. So even in Beijing or Shanghai, you have this food coming from everywhere. So you can have a taste of all Chinese food, all Chinese cuisines in Beijing also.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about that in a bit. But what I do want to know is that when you think of a local cuisine, right, what would be the dish that you cook most frequently, that you cook or you'd like to eat in terms of local cuisine, whether it is Chinese local cuisine or whether it's French local cuisine? Mr. Quentin, let's start with you. What's the dish that you would frequently eat or cook?
I think one of the dishes that I could eat all the time, which is not the dish that needs to be cooked, but oysters. I'm a big fan of oysters. I could eat that all day long. Could just feed on that. But no, there's lots of dishes that I do every day on a daily basis. My wife is Shanghainese, so cooking quite a lot of Shanghainese food at home. So Hong Shao Rou is one of them that we cook quite often. Lots of different, but yeah, Shanghainese food quite a lot.
Okay, very good. All right, oysters. All right, some seafood in there. Mr. Yang, what is the local cuisine that you like to eat or you'd like to cook?
Okay, I cook a lot of pasta at home, which is neither French or Chinese. But sometimes I put cured egg yolk in a pasta to make a sauce, which is kind of a fusion cuisine, I think. But in terms of Chinese cooking, I cook the 西红柿炒鸡蛋, which is egg in the tomato sauce. Okay. I also did a video about that. That's one of my favorite dish. I cook it a lot at home. And in terms of French food, I think what I cook most is duck confit. I have a different method to cook it, and I serve it at my restaurant as well.
Right, I was thinking the same thing. I'd also like to try it. Okay, so what's different in terms of your method?
The traditional duck confit, the word confit means you cook something in its own fat. So the traditional way of cooking duck confit is you put a duck leg in, after you kind of cure it for a few days, you put it in duck fat. And then you slow cook it to basically falling off the bone tender. But that requires a lot of duck fat. And it's very expensive, also harder to get. So what I was thinking is that if you put it in a sous vide bag, so you can basically use a very tiny bit of fat and create a similar environment.
So will that fat sort of like go in that bag and sort of like
yes, it's a mini confit. So you don't actually need to put any fat because duck leg is a fatty part of the animal. So you can just control the temperature and cook for like 12 hours overnight, and then you can put it in your freezer and you have ready to eat duck confit all month.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds so good. Oh, wow.
And I did a side-by-side test.
Bring some next time.
It's actually tastes better than the traditional confit because the temperature is more precisely controlled.
Okay. All right. What about yourself, Mr. Nico? What is your, what do you like to cook or the local cuisine that you like to eat?
I'm not a very good cook, so I would say I like to eat, in China, I like to eat jiaozi, the dumplings. It's a very, very classic. Also, during Chinese New Year, it's a very traditional dish.
Yeah.
So the dumplings, it's filled with meat and vegetables.
Yeah.
And I like when it's boiled. And it's usually it's very tasty and it's very like family taste,
it's very homey.
Yeah, very homey.
I had it for lunch.
Yes. Oh, wow. You know what? With my experience, I've traveled to France, and I'm currently obviously working and residing in China. And I've enjoyed, when it comes to French cuisine, I've really enjoyed like escargot, which is like a snail dish, that I absolutely love. When, you do the escargot with like the garlic sauce and it's like buttery and it's so delicious. Also
you
like
have to
quiche.
Just forget about where it comes from,
Yes. No, I've gone past that stage of even worrying that it's a snail. I really just enjoy the fact that it tastes delicious. It kind of also has the texture of a mushroom, when you bite into it. That's what I tell myself, really.
The texture is chewy.
Yeah, it's a bit more chewier. It's chewier than a mushroom, but I do absolutely enjoy it. Quiche as well is something that I absolutely love. It's just it's something that you can have during the day. You can have it in the evening. You can have it in the morning. It's a go-to like dish for me or cuisine that I absolutely love. And then when in terms of like Chinese cuisine, I really, really love hot pot. Hot pot, there's something about hot pot that brings that collectivism where you're sharing, like a meal with friends, with loved ones. You can, throw in all the ingredients that you want, throw in the meats, the vegetables, and have a really nice broth going on there. And I like some spicy food as well. So I always go for the spicy broth when it comes to hot pot.
Hot pot can be spicy,
it can be, but I enjoy it. And the dips that come with it, the sesame dips that you use as well, that's absolutely delicious.
You can choose not spicy also.
Or you can choose not spicy. It's really up to your preference, right? And I do also like Peking duck. I'm in Beijing, why not? I'm in Beijing, why not? So I think those are, for me personally, my favorite dishes or cuisines that I like to eat. And I've also tried making quiche before. I haven't really tried making Peking duck, but I've tried doing like a home hot pot version, So I do like to cook myself.
The Beijing duck is complicated. Maybe the chef can talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like us to move on to the next topic, which is similarities and differences in food cultures, right, between China and France. What are those similarities? What are those differences when it comes to food culture? And what stands out for you as something that is similar and different? I think we can start with you, Mr. Yang Guang.
Sure, yeah. Actually, I would love to share one point. It's kind of a general perspective. I think both Chinese and French cuisine are very much rooted in the land. Borrowing a jargon from, say, art history, is called in situ, which is means is of its original place. And I think it's very important because both China and France have a very advanced agriculture. And as you all know, good ingredients is a foundation of good cooking. So the ingredients we use are highly seasonal. So, for example, in the early spring, you have the best oysters in Normandy, and in the summer in Provence, you have the ratatouille. So those are the vegetables and produce that people just harvested. So we really value freshness, and it kind of gives us a sense of a rhythm, of a cadence throughout the year. And like in China, we have bamboo shoots in the springtime in Anhui, and also you have hairy crabs in the fall. And now it's very popular, and people eat it all over China. So I think I propose that is because both cuisines are developed way before refrigeration and modern transportation and also industrial farming. So I think this kind of cuisine that's rooted in the land is very important to our culture. And it's very different from the cuisines that are developed after the refrigeration and industrial farming. Maybe in those cuisines it's not very seasonal, and but in our cuisine every dish is seasonal, and that's very interesting to me, and it kind of created an equality. So even if you are super rich or you are very powerful people, but if it's not in season, you don't have the good hairy crab. It's the same for everyone.
And did you bring anything in studio for us to see in terms of, because I know you use quite a lot of like tools?
Yes, actually, I have. Oh, thank you. I have this little pot, but actually, I want to share something about the difference in cookware between Chinese and French cuisine, and I think that's something very different about the two cultures. Actually, for French cuisine, there's a great chef called Escoffier. He codified French cuisine like back in the time, and the French kitchen right now is kind of is structured in called a brigade system. So you have a chef executive like on top, and then you have a different party, which is different stations. So because of this, I think French cuisine created a lot of different tools for different job. Say roasting, or you have like grilling and making soups and sauces. That station is called the saucier. And this pot is a tool of the trade for the saucier, because it's a copper saucepan. Okay. So the copper has a great heat conductivity. So when you make sauce in this pan, large or small, if it's made of copper, then the sauce will be very very even.
Oh, it will be.
So it'll be heated very evenly. Okay. So this is well, I bought it because it's very cute. I don't really use it at home because I don't make like delicate French sauces in small portion. But this is, I think, what kind of symbolizes French kitchen system. But in a Chinese, especially a commercial kitchen, what you have most is woks and steamers, large commercial steamers. And the woks is valued by Chinese chefs because of its versatility. So you can do a lot of things in it. You can sear meat, you can stir fry, and you can even make soup in the wok. And people do use woks. Chefs use woks all the time for most of the cooking, other than say steaming. And well, also you can deep fry. So it's a very versatile tool, and now I think it became more and more is becoming more and more popular
Yes,
in
it
Western cuisine as well.
I've had to invest in a wok myself as well. So when I cook, I always try to use a wok as well. I mean, depending if I'm entertaining some guests as well.
Yeah.
It's really a nice technique because the heat also, the way that the heat is distributed in the wok when you're cooking, it's really nice to actually go through each and every part of the ingredients that you're using when you're cooking through a wok. So I absolutely enjoy cooking with it.
Yeah, so I think that's one of a major difference in the two cultures in terms of cookware. And another point I'd like to make is about alcohol. Because I'm a big fan of drinking wine, and I personally own a wine bistro in Beijing, and like I thought about it when the program asked me to came. The Chinese culture of alcohol is based on grains, and the French alcohols are based on fruits. So in France, you have obviously you have wine, which is fermented grape juice, and then you have brandy. So you have cognac and armagnac. That's brandy of a different region. Brandy is basically distilled grape spirit.
Yes.
And then you also have Calvados, which is one of my favorite. It's made of apple and pear. And then you have triple sec, which is used in a lot of desserts. That's orange flavored liqueur.
Has a very citrus taste.
Yes. And also you have like chartreuse and some of the other liqueurs, but those are based on like herbs and spices. Well, in China, you have baijiu and you have huangjiu.
Okay.
And you also have some rice spirits. But those are both made with grains. So, in China, we grow a lot of rice and different grains. Right now, maybe only we eat a lot of rice and we eat a lot of wheat. But some of the more historical grains now are mainly used to make baijiu.
So with baijiu, it's very popular, right? Is it made from rice grain? Is it rice wine?
Well, actually, it's all different.
Okay.
So you might know, like some popular baijiu, they are made from with gaoliang.
Okay.
Something you don't really eat right now, but the flavor is good in baijiu. And sometimes it's made with rice or wheat, but most of the time it's a mix of local grains.
And sorgo, no? Maybe sorgo, no?
Sir?
Sorgo. I don't know in English, maybe another name. It's also a kind of cereal.
And in France, you have a great tradition of pairing food with wine. And that's actually...
we have to say that the baijiu, it's very, very strong.
Yes.
Maybe
yes.
People are not familiar with... we are familiar with baijiu. It's like can be like from 45 to 60 or 70 degrees.
But I mean, I think there's also a way
That's
of drinking the baijiu, right? You wouldn't necessarily have a full glass of baijiu.
Very small glasses.
Very
very
small, but
small
of a specific quantity that you should have when you're having the baijiu. And would you also pair it with the food? As the French
some people do, but I think that maybe that's one of the reasons why pairing food with baijiu hasn't been as popular as pairing food with lighter alcoholic beverages like wine.
Okay.
For me, it would be like more like digestive, something to help to digest. Like Calvados, we use also is very strong. Calvados is very strong, so we use this or some plum wine, very strong, and so this is to help. Like when you have already eat the main dishes.
Yeah.
Maybe you want something before the dessert or the cheese. You want a little bit of alcohol to clean a little bit the stomach.
The system, right?
Yeah. So maybe the Chinese also use this.
Yeah.
Clean a little bit the oil or things like that.
Corentin, have you had some baijiu before?
Yes, of course. Sometimes too much.
What's your take on some of the similarities and differences in Chinese and French cuisine culture?
So for me, one of the big differences from a culinary perspective, like from a cooking technique, I think in Chinese food, we're often talking about the 入味. It's just like letting the flavor go in the elements. If you're cooking chicken or beef or anything, if you're making a stew or anything, you want the flavor of your sauce, which is already quite strong flavored, to go in the meat to have the flavor inside. In France, it's kind of the opposite. We're often like trying to extract the flavor of the ingredients into the sauce. That's why French sauces are so famous, and that's, I think, sauce is the most representative element of French cuisine. And for example, if you want to do a meat juice in France, you're going to use big quantity first of bones to do a brown stock. So extract the flavor of the bones, the meat, and the vegetable in the soup, and then use this stock, fry some meat, and just use the Maillard reaction, like the browning of the meat, this kind of flavor to extract the meat flavor to get a little bit of juice. And that's why the sauce now a lot of restaurants don't do it themselves because it's very expensive to do. You need a lot of meat to end up with just a little kind of a concentrate of meat flavor. But that's one thing that's very important in French cuisine, trying to extract the flavor. While in China would be kind of the opposite, it's trying to get the flavor in the elements. So I think that's from a conceptual perspective, that's a big difference. And also in Chinese cuisine, there's a lot of immediacy. It's quite fast. For many dishes, it's quite a fast cooking method. Big fires, very quick. Chefs have to be very, very sharp and very quick in their seasoning. If you go to a restaurant, I don't know if you stayed in the kitchen of a Chinese restaurant, but it's something to see. It's really impressive, really fast, really seems very, so can understand it's a tiring work in China. But in France, it's kind of the opposite. We take a long time. First, you put something, so you're gonna fry some onion, garlic. You put a bottle of wine. You reduce. Then it takes 30 minutes to reduce. Then you add some brown stock. Then you reduce again for 30 minutes. Then you add some cream. Then you reduce again. So in French cooking, it's a lot like step by step building the flavor. While in Chinese cuisine, it's much more immediate. So I think that's a big difference in the concept. And for what's similar, I think the main for me is just the passion of just the people, the passion of the people for food. Both in China and in France, food is something extremely important in our daily life, something that cannot be put aside. And I think that's kind of what, like the passion of people for food, in the end, is the main thing that's gonna push chefs to do better. If people are willing to travel 2 hours to come to your restaurant because you're cooking good food, then your business is good. Then you're rewarded for your hard work and talent. And so that's pushing the restaurant scene up, and that's encouraging for chefs. If people were just, I don't care, I just go to the restaurant downstairs or all the time, then chefs, good chefs in some small places wouldn't have any recognition or any work. And I think that's what's happening now a lot in China. Like some young chefs are being recognized, and some people, they have a booking for the next 2 months. The restaurant is fully booked, and that just shows the love of people, and the people are willing to pay a premium to eat some good food, to eat some good ingredients. So as Mr. Yang was saying, it's also related to the agriculture. Very strong, that I completely agree. That's a very common point between France and China, very strong agriculture. And that's also what's allowing chefs. When I was working in France in a restaurant, it was a Michelin 3-star restaurant. We were buying some asparagus it was like 70 RMB for one asparagus.
Wow.
Some very, very beautiful asparagus. And so, of course, if you buy it 70 kwai in the restaurant, then when you sell it, it's an expensive dish.
Even more, yeah.
And the fact that some people...
But that's
a very good observation. Yeah,
it's the asparagus of your life.
Of your life, right? I think that's something that's interesting though, because you touched on the Michelin star restaurants, and there's a specific dining sequence that was also pretty popular in the French, culture. I want us to touch on that. I mean, obviously, you have a different dining experience when you go to a Michelin star restaurant compared to if you're dining at home with your family, right? What are those specific dining sequences that are important and part of the French culture?
But you start usually with appetizer. Usually you can break in 3: appetizer, main dish, and dessert or cheese. But also, if you go to the very refined restaurant, you're going to have like several appetizers. It can be like 5 or 6 in a row. But it's very teeny, very small, but very well done. So you're going to have this like little dishes coming to you like every 10 minutes. Amuse-bouche, les entrées, and after you can have a soup, and after you have the main dish, and the main dish is not the most important maybe. You know, it's part of all these elements of the long meal.
That's one of the specificities also, just to add on that.
Yes.
One of the specificities of French cuisine that chefs are often, when you create a whole menu, so maybe it's going to be a 20 dishes menu. First thing is a lot of people in China feel that, okay, it's just small dishes, I'm never going to be full. But in case it's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
It's exactly the opposite. If you go to a fine dining restaurant, usually you come out like
at the end. At the end, it's the small. A lot of there's so many small things like you're gonna eat, and at the end you will be full.
You're already full because there's so many of the small dishes that keep coming out, right?
And you had a lot of different flavors. Very fresh usually, like as we say, like the products are very fresh if you go to this kind of restaurants, and everything is selected, and the chefs, they need to know the product very well. That's also the key to make some very good dish.
I've also experienced in Chinese cuisine that there's also a sense of sequence of the type of food that is dished out first on the table. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, of course. Actually, a very fine Chinese cuisine, they also have a sequence of serving, just like you pointed out. And in the beginning, usually we started with actually tea snacks. So it's on the table when you arrive, and you can eat it while you are waiting for other guests to arrive. And then you have usually the cold dishes, and that's served. And usually people will start eating when the cold dishes are all served. So after that, hot dishes will be served in a sequence. Usually, the rule is that you don't really reuse the same ingredient twice, especially the main ingredients like fish or pork or chicken. Usually, it's only used in one dish, and then after the main courses, you are served with rice or noodles or basically starches, and accompanying that starch will be some other like 随饭菜, so it means the dishes that will go with the rice or noodles. And then after that, you are served a dessert, but desserts are not actually always served last in Chinese cooking. Sometimes it's served at the beginning of the meal or during the tea snacks as well. So I think that's a very interesting point that we are discussing. That's the format of the meal. That's what I call it format. But the fine dining restaurants usually use a format that's based on French cooking, actually. So you have the appetizers, and you have main courses, desserts, and then even desserts after desserts called petit four, means a mini oven. So that's actually a French tradition. And I think maybe new restaurants can try to serve dishes in a different sequence. And that will definitely give the guests very different dining experiences.
Absolutely. It makes it exciting. It's an exciting dining experience, isn't it? But something that stands out for me personally when it comes to us talking about, the similarities between French cuisine and Chinese cuisine are the long histories that we find in French cuisine and culture, as well as the long history that we find in Chinese cuisine and culture, right? Historically, they both nations have very much long histories, and I think that food has become very much a huge part of that culture. And we see it because there's different tastes and different foods from different regions. So if you go to France, there are different tastes and different styles of cooking from different regions, and same thing in China as well. The South have a different way of cooking. Cantonese food is different from the northern region of food as well. And that is why it's always best to explore all the different regions to be more exposed to the different styles and to different tastes and the different ingredients that are used as well. And I would like for you, our audience, to also join in the conversation that we're having right here. Please drop your comments on whichever platform you're joining us on, and let us know what you think of this conversation and what styles of food it is that you like, whether it's French cuisine or Chinese cuisine. And don't forget the hashtag hashtag the hype on our platforms. All right. Now, going on to our next question. Obviously, we've got the Chinese Spring Festival that's coming up next, and it's a huge holiday in the Chinese culture, and I'd say also, in the Oriental culture. What are the dishes that are specific to this holiday? And I want us to also then dive into the dishes that are made for other holidays, whether in the French or in the Western side of the culture, whether it can be New Year's Eve or Christmas or whatnot. But what are those dishes that are made during this time of a Spring Festival?
Okay, so I'll start. In China, China is very big. So Spring Festival is celebrated by the entire country, and you can generally divide China into the south and north in terms of the culinary habits. And northern China, we eat jiaozi. In southern China, they eat niangao, which is rice cake. And I live in northern China most of my life, and jiaozi is something people eat for basically every holiday, not just the Spring Festival. But the Spring Festival, people get together and as a family and make jiaozi together as a tradition. Usually is during the big gala on TV, and we will make jiaozi. Somebody will make the wrapper, and maybe another family member will make the filling, and then we wrap it together in different shapes that we personally like, and then we boil it together and we eat it around midnight. It's a New Year tradition, and I think.
What is the symbolism behind having to eat it around midnight? Is it because you're about to go into the New Year?
New Year, yes, exactly. And people usually will put a coin in one of the jiaozi, and whoever ate the coin has a good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah,
I was actually part of a CGTN program last year during this time of the year where we were also making the jiaozi, that's how you say it, right? The jiaozis. And I was the one that found the coin. And I guess I've had a good year. So yeah, I think it's so interesting to get to see that, to get to experience that, because those specific dishes and those specific meals come out as a celebratory
and they have a meaning also.
Yeah.
They have a meaning, like you have to bring some fish also, because it brings you some happiness, or it can give you some fortune, or for good wealth also during the year. So you need to have specific dishes during the Chinese New Year.
The pronunciation of fish means basically surplus. So you have extra.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the meaning of fish.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm allergic to fish, but I can eat everything else.
You can eat the jiaozi also, because they look like a traditional like silver lingo, like it was used to pay during the Middle Ages in China. It's also the connection with history and culture, and the similarity of the pronunciation. So it's very important.
Wow. Okay. Corentin, are there any dishes or meals that you prepare or the French people prepare on specific holidays, whether it's Christmas or New Year's Eve?
Of course, there's a lot. Mr. Yang was just saying about the coin in dumpling in China. Well, in France, we've got the king's cake, galette de roi, which is kind of same thing. We put a small character in how do you hard character in the cake, and when you bite in it for the day. So that's also a festival based on the religion, but it's very similar as the coin in the dumpling. And after, for Christmas, we've got lots of dishes. Usually Christmas is a special day, so of course that's when you spend a bit of money to buy some good products. So again, oysters, duck liver, all those kind of things are going to be on the table for Christmas. And then the stuffed, having a chicken, the yanti, like chicken stuffed with chestnut, is also something we see a lot on the Christmas table in France. Big roast chicken just to share with everybody, which is kind of always in China for Chinese New Year. You're gonna have a da cai, ying cai, like for example babao, egg treasure chicken, or those kind of things. Some dishes that are a bit complicated to do and that are gonna stand in the middle of the table, a bit impressive, well, we've got the same thing in France for for Christmas and all those kind of days.
That's true.
For New Year, we've
yeah.
got it more about Spain.
Like we were talking about doing the jiaozi, the dumplings together like a family. It's also the same with the chicken or the turkey. Like you feel also you have a feeling and you can prepare it. You do it with all the people like gathering the family and sometimes like a tradition like the grandfather will teach to the grandson or something.
So
like that.
it's like recipes that get passed on from generation
Yeah, the way to
generation.
cook, the way to put in the oven, the way to prepare the filling and everything. So it's time also to learn the secrets of the cooking of the family.
That's so interesting. You know, I like how you've mentioned that, because obviously when it comes to dining experience and food culture, there's a lot of stereotypes that come with that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people might think that, yes, Chinese cuisine is more collective in the process of dining, whereas Western cuisine or French cuisine is more individual in the sense of dining. But you've just mentioned now for that specific holiday that there is, you know, that sense of togetherness when a grandfather would pass on a recipe to their grandchild to continue that legacy into different generations, right? But going back to the idea of stereotypes, I want us to break down some stereotypes that people might have about French cuisine or about Chinese cuisine, and where you think those stereotypes might come from and what you'd want to clarify for our audience watching today. For example, you know, some people might say that Chinese people like to eat rice with every meal. Is this true, Yang?
It is true. Actually, no. Well, I like to eat a lot of rice, but as I said, China is very big, and usually is people eat the grain that they produce. So in northern China, especially northwest part of China, people eat a lot of noodles, which is made from wheat flour, and also there are a lot of things that's like corn or you know, other grains are grind into their flour and made into like buns or youmian, so different shapes of starches. And in southern China, people do eat a lot of rice because it's a main rice agricultural region. And where I'm from, the northeast part of China, Dongbei, we have I argue, the best rice that I had before.
Okay,
so
I need to try it out.
yeah, that's why I really love eating a lot of rice myself. But I think it's a very regional dining habit, and I have a good friend who have to eat one meal of noodle per night and one meal of rice during lunch. He hasn't changed for like decades.
My favorite dish of rice is chow fai, which is fried rice. You know?
Yes.
I absolutely love it because there's more ingredients that's added to the rice, and it gives it such nice flavors and textures as well. What about the French?
You also have the fried noodles.
Oh, the fried noodles as well.
mein,
Yes, chow mein. Absolutely. I do enjoy fried noodles as well. But now, is it true that French people eat bread and drink wine with every meal?
Okay, for bread, I would say yes, it's true. We have different kind of bread also. Some like a white inside, some are more dark and black. You know, because depend also of the quality of the wheat and the density. And so we basically yes, we use bread like if you go to a restaurant, they're gonna give you some bread basket. But for the wine, it depends. I mean, if you go with your family, with your friends, or like if you go to a restaurant, yeah, probably you're going to have a glass of wine or maybe one bottle. But if you eat at home, you don't, I think for me, I will just drink water during the meal. I don't have the reason to drink some wine if I'm only like, it's just to eat myself or with the people, my family. So it's more like if you meet someone, if you go out to have dinner or lunch, yeah, you're gonna have a
as well as a social aspect.
It's social, yes.
Okay,
social.
all right.
And it's good also with the food for sure.
Yeah,
with the cheese, like a red wine with cheese, is very good.
Very nice to bring it together, right?
Colin,
going back to the idea that French people have a more individual aspect of eating and dining. For example, when they plate up their dishes, each person has their own dish, and they have a meal that they want. Whereas in the Chinese culture, the dishes will be plated on the table, and then everybody eats from those dishes, you know, as a collective. Is that true in terms of the individual aspect, or do you also have a similar type of culture where there is that collectivism in French dining?
For me, it's kind of fun to think about it because from a like outside perspective, of course, same dish around the table in China, same dish for everybody, and then everybody to share seems like collectivism. But I think in the end, it's more individual than the French way of cooking because you've got a selection of 8 dishes on the table. If I want to eat 100 grams of chicken and only 5 grams of this one and not touch this dish, I can do that. I can pair it accordingly to my need. If I feel more like something sweet, then I go more on the dish. I can just pair accordingly the quantity of each dish that I want to eat. In France, when you eat at home, you're going to have, a baked cauliflower in the middle, a roast chicken, and everybody gets one piece of chicken, one slice of cauliflower, and everybody eats exactly the same thing in the end. So it's more collectivism in the end than... so I think it's just a different way of seeing, but
because maybe people think, sorry, Quentin, but maybe people think like French food is like what you're gonna have in a restaurant. You're gonna order one dish and it's just for yourself. But of course, at home, nobody can make one dish for one person. It's gonna be like a dish for everybody, and we're gonna have the family, and we're gonna have it the same thing together, the same dish. So yeah.
Ordering dish with your mother, it's not going to go well, I think.
No.
Actually, I'd like to add one little historical point. The way that you serve the food in France, actually during before Renaissance, people will serve all the food together on the table. Much like the Instagram influencers today would do. It's called service à la française, so the French service. So all the food on the table together. It's more like what Chinese food is now. And the way we associate with French cuisine right now, the service course by course, is actually called service à la Russe, the Russian service. It's actually a fun historical fact.
That's so interesting because I'm from South Africa, right? And during festivals or special occasions, we also have this sense of collectivism when it comes to dining and eating. All the dishes will be displayed on the table, and then it's like a buffet. Everyone picks what they want from a specific dish, and it's more of enjoying and being together and having fun during that time. So there's more similarities in the world than there are differences if you actually think about it, isn't it?
Exactly.
And that's something that should be highlighted in today's program, because food is a universal language. I mean, there's nobody that you will find that will tell you that they do not like food. Right? I don't think you'll ever find a person that doesn't like food. It would be very weird if you find someone that will say that they don't like food.
They're going to be very skinny.
I guess, but there's definitely something for that person. There's definitely a dish or a meal that they might enjoy. Let us know what you like to eat as well as your favorite dish on our different platforms rather. Don't forget our hashtag is #TheHype. Now going on to look at Quentin as well as Yangguan, you guys both have different styles of video making as well as cooking. Right? Now, I want us to have a conversation where you look and you tell us what it is that your style is of cooking, the process that it takes for you to go through the meals that you prepare and the meals that you do, but also the process behind making the videos, whether it is editing the videos, how long it takes you to make those videos, because you have such a huge following and people always want to have more content from you, right? But I'm pretty sure it takes a while to prepare those videos. And also, you have the architectural background in it that you infuse into your cooking. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so thank you. And I'm not trained as a chef. I basically taught myself how to cook by watching YouTube videos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so because on YouTube, most of the cooking is Western, so it's more based on French or Italian cooking. So actually, my cooking style is more Western than Chinese. But of course, I learned some cooking skills from my mother or my relatives. So it's a natural fusion, I would say. But I try to use the lack of my professional cooking training to my advantage by looking at a dish from a perspective of, say, an engineer. And sometimes you end up with, fun ideas, like the way to cook duck confit with, sous vide bag. Or sometimes, like a professional chef may have their restrictions because their head chefs told them not to do certain things, but nobody ever told me. So I don't really have those limitations.
So would you then say that there is a science to food?
Yeah, of course. I think food
chemistry.
is basically chemistry. Yeah.
Cooking is chemistry. That's true.
Yeah, and I believe because food is what we interact with every day. So if you can kind of put science into cooking and influence the audience, they will probably put science into what they do every day. And I think that's a good thing for our society. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Corentin, you have a huge fan base in China. What do you think of your Chinese fans' feedback and people's change of taste during the past several years, ever since you started being an influencer?
So on my side, when I started to do some content on social media, I started doing mostly French food at the beginning, just sharing what I knew the most, what I felt more comfortable with. But after a while, since myself, as I was saying before, I'm learning a lot of Chinese food, cooking Chinese food every day. I am very curious about it. I have the chance to have many Chinese food chefs that are good friends and willing to teach me some dishes. So I wanted also to start to share a bit that my learning process. So just as a Westerner, to cook some Chinese food. And to be honest, at the beginning, I was a bit scared about the reaction. Like people would say, yeah, a foreigner cooking Chinese food is not authentic, it's not good, and stuff. And it was exactly the opposite reaction that I got from my fans from people on the different platforms. It was a very positive reaction. When I was doing like a dish, I wasn't doing it the right way. They would give me a lot of advice. Okay, you should try doing it like that. You should add these ingredients. You should cook it this way. And when I was doing something well, in an authentic and proper way, was a lot of encouragement. So I think that also gave me a lot of liberty to try, a lot of liberty and encouragement to go try more things.
It's so interesting. Sorry, it's so interesting to see the fusion that you do between French cuisine and Chinese cuisine. And I'm pretty sure you've got some questions for Guangtan yourself.
Sure, yeah. Actually, I'm a fan of Guangtan, of course. I followed him on all his social media
platforms.
And actually, I'm a big fan of watching a foreigner chef cooking Chinese food on Weibo, on YouTube, or any platform, because I really appreciate the different perspective the chef will bring when they are cooking certain dishes. Sometimes myself, when I look at a dish I don't know how to make, I'll definitely check out some of the traditional Chinese chefs' cooking methods, but I also check out foreign chefs' methods as well, because they sometimes it didn't grow up with them, the dish, so they don't take it for granted. They will look at the process and really kind of question each step or quantify each step, which is very helpful for people like me.
Which is really great.
It's more simple. You can learn it's easier to learn.
Yes, easier to learn, exactly. Okay. And that's why I really like watching Guangtan's contents. And I remember 1 year I look at his tiger dumplings.
Yes, I've seen those. Yes.
Did you come up with the idea yourself, or like how is that? How did you design the tiger pattern?
I did before. I did some printed dumpling before, way before, for some clients in some different projects. So already some dumpling with some specific printing on it.
Okay.
So I already had the technique was here, and just Chinese New Year dumpling is something that's for me very Like if I think of Chinese New Year, I'm going to think of dumpling because I was in Beijing when I just came to China for the first time. And I remember the whole building, just people like boom, 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 doing the stuffing of the dumpling. It was a very special experience. So I was wanting to do like Tiger Year, but just, the idea came like that. But,
Nice, yeah.
I also have a question for Corentin. When you do the fusion, it's like 50-50, like 50 French food or European food and 50 Chinese food, or it's more like going more like Chinese, more like French?
I think absolutely no rules on that. There's some dishes that are going to be very Chinese with a small French touch in there, some very French with a small Chinese touch. No rules on that. I think for me, when doing fusion, the most important thing is to understand, like if I want to add specific ingredients, like I want to add a meigancai in a French dish. Now the first thing, meigancai, like the Shaoxing fermented vegetable, like a very Chinese ingredients. Now the first thing is to understand how Chinese people use it in their cuisine. Why do they cook it this way? Why do they pair it with fatty pork and all this kind of thing? And once you understand that, then you can go see if there's any possible match within French cuisine. But I think it's not just taking the ingredient, throwing it in a French dish, and it's called fusion.
That's why you need to know both very, very deeply.
Yeah.
So you can use some elements of it. That's good. Interesting. Very interesting.
And when it comes to the inspiration, how do you gather the inspiration to make specific dishes that you do the fusion and the infusion for? Because I would assume that you look at the most popular dishes, or you look at the dishes that are most tasty. Like, how do you come up with the concept of specific dishes, and where do you gather the inspiration from?
I think inspiration is just something that can come from anything, everything can be inspiration at some point. It's just the way you interpret it. And I think that's kind of for me, of course, every travel I do in China, I either was going to Sichuan before, some beautiful ingredients in the Yunnan region, some beautiful ingredients over there. Lots of things that I've never seen before. I tried some fermented cow skin, which was really interesting texture-wise. And so it's just keeping an open mind and trying a lot of new products. So it's a lot of eating, on a daily basis. But
sounds fun. Yeah.
That's also a part like we share, like between French people and Chinese people. It's the love for the food and the local food, and for the area where you can find this food. So there's like a touristic. Culinary tourism, like in France and in China. In China, I know it's very, very important. You go to specific towns and cities and villages to
try out the
taste
food from there.
Yeah. And in French people, they also do that.
Wow, that's
even
really good.
And wine also, of course. It's part of the culinary tradition, like to drink a very good wine, and you go to different areas. It's a very it's a cultural thing.
And I think with Yangguang, a lot of people, especially young people, follow your food because they believe that it's a more healthy approach to making food and to cooking as well. And there's been a trend now where young people are fascinated with healthy foods, food that is very good for their systems, food that will also give them the right vitamins and protein and so forth. Why do you think there's such a fascination amongst young people when it comes to healthier foods nowadays?
I think, because when people are no longer worried about if they are going to have the next meal, they will think about what they are going to eat for the next meal. So it's very natural, and you see it in the US, in Europe as well. And the young people in China right now, they're also influenced by social media. They want to look good, and I think also there are a lot of nutritional scientists on social media. They post about how to eat healthy, and a lot of people are definitely attracted by that, and they try to cook more healthy meals. For me, I think it's important to cook delicious food, and if it can be healthy, then great. If not, then as long as you know that one meal is greasy or is too sweet, you can adjust for it later. I think for me, that's my approach. I don't want to sacrifice deliciousness.
Right.
Yeah.
You wanna have the deliciousness in the food, but you also want to get the nutritional value of the food, right?
Yeah.
And I think something that I've also seen quite a lot is that young people are more fascinated, or according to my own observation, are very fascinated with like different foods and different cuisines from across the world. Do you think there's a rise in Chinese people wanting to try out different foods from the Western side?
Of course, but not just the Western side. I think people are generally curious about food. As Guangtan and Nicholas said, Chinese people really love food, whether it's local or it's Western. Especially because right now there are a lot of we can find a lot of foreign restaurants or foreign ingredients in China because of the global trading, and we have access to what we didn't have before. So I think a fusion of food, a fusion of culinary culture is inevitable, because back in the days when we don't have access to all the foreign ingredients, we don't know what a foie gras is. So but now we had it. So there's no going back after you tried a certain ingredient. Like you tried black truffle, there's no way to unknow that flavor. So it became something that's irreplaceable. I think the same thing goes for, say, Shaoxing wine, for like a Western cook. And I know a lot of Western cook use laochou, which is a dark soy sauce. And they use it to make the sauce look darker. And it's very convenient. The Chinese chefs do it all the time, but now it's available for the Western chefs, and they'll always have that in their toolkit. I think the same thing goes for chefs and customers. So people will mix all the ingredients and especially the cooking techniques together, and to create more interesting cuisine. And in China, even like Cantonese food is fusion food by itself. It already incorporated pasta in their cooking, and a lot of Western ingredients, butter or sandwiches. You can find it in Cantonese restaurants, even 100 years ago, is part of their cuisine. So historically, that's what people do. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we have access to more ingredients, and it's a better time than ever to be as a foodie, I think.
Having access to more ingredients sounds great, doesn't it? Yeah. But then what do you have to say to people who would say that some of the dishes will lose their authenticity? Some people will say, but no, it's we're living in a different time, because now some of the dishes, culinary foods, are no longer the same as they were 100 years ago. What do you have to say to those people?
They change all the time. Like we don't have the same cuisine as 2,000 years ago.
Yeah,
it changed, but
it's human evolution.
Of course, yeah. You have more product like tomatoes, potatoes and tomatoes. Where they are coming? They are coming from South America. So of course, before there was no potatoes and tomatoes in the Western world, even in China. So, but now, or corn.
Okay.
Also. So of course, everybody are used to eat that. And I know rice is very, very popular in Africa. A lot of people eat rice, they eat as much as rice as Chinese people.
Yes.
So it's very popular. So it's normal that you have more ingredients and you can change your recipes. But also it's good to keep a little bit some traditions, for sure. That's why you need some very traditional schools where you're gonna learn how to cook in a local way. And you need the balance. I think you can have both.
Yeah.
You can have new ingredients and also the old recipes.
It's possible to have both in a modern world, right? And I think now we can also have a look at this next question. If you were to be able to bring a loved one to a country, so you're Chinese, and if you were able to bring a loved one to France, or a loved one from France to China, which city would you take them to, and why? in terms of experiencing the authentic cuisine from that city, or that would showcase that culture. Let's start with you, Kong Tan. Who would you bring to which city and why?
I think even if Shanghai doesn't seem like the most, I don't know, like the best cuisine in some people would say like Canton, Guangdong, or those or Chengdu. But I think Shanghai, because I've been living here for 14 years now. I love this city. I love the food scene here. I think it's really showing because it's very active, lots of things happening. You've got a huge variety of restaurants, a very high quality restaurant that you can go to in Shanghai. So you can find a bit of everything in Shanghai, whether it's even Western food, all types of Chinese food. There's some very high quality restaurant, and I think something that is changing now in China is going from traditional restaurant that were doing some high quality food. If you went to a premium restaurant in China 20 years ago, probably you would have abalone, those kind of sea cucumber and those kind of premium products. And I think now it's changing to have some young chef that instead of using premium products to get the price higher, they're going to be very creative in the way they do the dishes. And I think the consumer are more and more willing to pay for that creativity. And that's something you see now in Shanghai, a lot of Chinese young chefs doing some very, very creative Chinese food. And I think it's this Chinese food that is going to influence the world in the future, more than very traditional Chinese food. So I think that's a good thing for foreigners to see that.
And I think you'd also be able to get around, right? If you're familiar with the city, then you know which places to show your loved one or your family member, isn't it? What about you, Mr. Young?
Yes, I would love to take my wife to a wine tour in France. Maybe we
that sounds so romantic.
Go to Bordeaux or go to the Hong Valley, and then go to Burgundy.
Champagne.
Yeah, and because the French wine, especially the wine from Burgundy, is very expensive in outside of France, let's say. So I really want to go to Burgundy and try the wine there. And some people say that wine is best like if you had it at the original place. I think that might be true. Because of the climate, the terroir there is very different from where you might have it, say, in Beijing or in Shanghai. And I would love to try Burgundy wine in Burgundy, if just to see if it's better.
Your wife is a very lucky woman.
Well, she knows wine more than I do, so.
Okay, what about you, Mr. Nico?
Yeah. Like Corentin say, I will bring someone in Shanghai, I will bring someone in Beijing, because I know better in Beijing. I know a lot of different restaurants from different food, like different parts of the world. Even Middle East and Indian restaurants are the food are very, very popular now in Beijing and in China. But I would go for the roast duck, the kaoya. Yeah, it's the classic one. When you bring someone to Beijing, I think you go to the roast duck restaurant. Yeah. Very crispy, the skin is different, the way to cook the duck is a very, very special. It takes a lot of time, so it's very special flavor when you go to the very good restaurant with a roast duck. About France, I don't know. Maybe I will bring my friend to my mother's place. She can do a lot of very good bœuf bourguignon. Nice. Beef stew like bourguignon with put a little bit of red wine inside, and it's very good. Or go to southwest of France also. It's close to Spain, and you have a lot of dish from Spain and France together. That's a very good place to go. Or go to Brittany, La Bretagne, and eat some crepes, galette bretonne. It's very delicious.
Yeah. And I think it's possible now. Obviously earlier on I spoke about how we are touching and looking at the 60th anniversary and celebration between diplomatic relations between China and France. And recently, China waived a visa-free entry for French people, right? French holding passports to come to China. And do you think that is something that's going to hype up the tourism and allow people that people-to-people exchange and having that experience where you're able to bring loved ones here so they can try those different culinary experiences from different regions?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think because China is very big, so if French people do come to China, I encourage them to try places outside of Beijing and Shanghai to experience more local culture, if you will, in China. And I think my hometown, Harbin, was really popular on Chinese social media this year. Yeah, and
ice festival.
yes, they have ice castles, and the tourism was very hot this year. So, but also the cuisine in Harbin is very interesting as well. And you have very nice charcuterie in Harbin, actually. That's very unique in their technique. It's braised then smoked, which is you don't have that in outside of Harbin. And I think it'll be a fun trip if you go there, and it's not far away from Beijing. So I'll definitely recommend Dongbei, northeast of China, to French tourists.
To experience, all right. Mr. Kwang Tan, I want to find out from you, right? And when I say comfort food, what's that one dish that makes you think of comfort food and also reminds you of home?
Remind me of home. I think it would be a faluche, which is it's a cake with a lot of butter from the north of France, where I was born and raised, and that's something that on Sunday at home. So in the morning, my mother would do the dough, leave it outside to rise slowly, and then we would go ice skating on the lake, and when coming back, the bread has risen. Just that was my duty as a kid, just to use your finger to poke some holes in the bread, and in each hole you have to put one piece of butter and some sugar, and then you bake it, and it's just absolutely delicious. After a day ice skating, you're feeling really cold, and you've got that warm bread. It's just very delicious.
It is winter now in China. Are you still doing that dish? Are you still making that bread?
No. In China, comfort food would be a fan jie chao dan, tomato and egg stir fried, which is the first dish I learned in Chinese food. The first dish I learned in Beijing with our Ai back then, and she taught me how to do it. And I'm still cooking it very frequently. That's my Chinese comfort food, definitely.
And Mr. Yang, what's your go-to dish to cook when you think of comfort food and a dish that reminds you of?
Well, I have to say fried chicken, actually.
Wow, okay.
I really enjoy fried chicken, but it's hard to do at home because you have to have a lot of oil and you have to brine the chicken, etc. So actually, there's another chicken dish that my mom would cook when I was a kid, and I learned to cook it now, which is chicken with mushroom. But not just any mushroom. It's a chestnut mushroom from Dongbei. So the mushroom would grow under the chestnut tree. So it has a very strong funky flavor. And you use a young rooster to cut it into large pieces, and you sear it a little bit, then cook it with that specific kind of mushroom. And it's a stew, so you don't really reduce all the sauce. You leave it's very wet, and the sauce goes very well on like rice or noodles. Oh, wow. And it's actually very similar to hunter's chicken in French cuisine.
That sounds very delicious.
Yeah, but it's all chicken mushroom, but the flavor of the chestnut mushroom is the key to the dish.
Yeah. Oh, I should try that.
So
Yeah.
I'm thinking I need to try that as well. Nico, what about you?
I mentioned the beef bourguignon, It's a stew. I really like it. But I could say le coq au vin also. It's the rooster with wine. It's also, they're all like kind of stew. So it's like, it's not dry. It's not a soup also, but you have all the sauce. I think it's everything in one dish, and I really like it. And you put some mashed potatoes, something like that, and it's delicious. And I think we share a little bit. We have this kind of dishes also in China. I will try in China also. They really like the stew things also. Yeah. So yeah.
You know, as I said earlier on, I'm South African, and I think of the one comfort dish that stands out for me, especially during winter time, as it's winter now. There's a beef stew served with sampan beans. That is just so homey and so hearty. My mom does it every single time, and I'm always happy when I have that dish. And I think that is one thing that connects us, right? Yeah. Is that taste of home, and that just brings joy to you after having that meal. So that wraps up our tantalizing journey through the culinary cultures of China and France. A big thank you to our incredible guests that have joined us today, including you, Mr. Kwang Tan, who have joined us online for sharing your expertise and insights with us today. Your passion for food and culture truly, truly brought this episode to life. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling quite hungry after all this mouth-watering discussion of Sino-French cuisine. I can't wait to try out some of the amazing recipes we've learned about today, and our journey doesn't stop right here. We have so much more in store for you in the upcoming episodes. From vibrant art scenes to breathtaking landscapes, we'll be diving into a variety of captivating topics that showcase the richness of our world. Remember, our tagline is where minds collide, ideas amplify. This is The Hype, and I am your host, Gift Mona. Until next time, we are out. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.